Hello, I'm Stephne Cooley and welcome to Stephne Cooley Real Estate Show. On today's show, we've got beautiful homes for sale in your area. We've got all the homes available on our website at stephencooley.com, so visit us on the web. Also on the web, you can order our candle, The Scent That Sells, or go to thescentthatsells.com. It's a candle we've created to help homeowners sell their property. On today's show, we're going to talk with Tracey Reynolds, a local attorney, and she's going to give us some advice on real estate closing. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that, and we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Stephne Cooley and welcome to the Stephne Cooley Real Estate Show. On today's show, I'm very excited to have Tracey Reynolds back to the show.
Thank you.
Tracey's a local attorney in town and she gives us great advice on real estate closings, and you've handled many of my personal sales and also hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of our clients, and you have a perfect rating from all of them, including me. So
great,
thank you for all that great real estate closing and handling all that legal stuff. We love to have you on the show and get advice on what's going on in ownership of real estate and that kind of thing. I know one thing I want to talk about today, Tracey, is that surveys kind of were a thing of the past. People were originally relying on the survey done when the neighborhood was developed or when the house was originally built 10, 15, 20 years ago. And those surveys don't show anything new. Fences, garages, driveways.
Right.
And if you don't get that new survey and close on that home, then you could have some issues, and we're seeing a lot of that today. So would you address that?
Yes. Surveys are created at the time a development is created by the subdivision plat, and that shows the lot lines, but it doesn't show anything that's placed on top of the property, the location of the house, the concrete drive, outbuildings, fences, the neighbor's house, concrete drive. So those are things that we can't see when we're closing a real estate transaction. Right. We can close with a subdivision plat. We can close with a plat that was done 10 years ago that may show the house, but we're not able to advise the client as to matters that could be shown by a new survey. What's happened within the past 4 years is that title insurance would at one point provide coverage if there was something wrong. So when the client purchased title insurance at closing, if there was an issue, and it varies from title company to title company, but if there was an issue, then title insurance would cover that. Right. Whereas now that's not the case. Exactly. So we are advising people to get new surveys. And when they get those new surveys, then oftentimes there's a concrete drive that's projecting onto the neighbor's property, and that has to be addressed in some way. We may leave it there, remove it, or you can approach the neighbor about an encroachment agreement. But there's other items. At the time a development is being put into place, the developer puts restrictive covenants, and it tells the owner how far you can build your house from the front lot line, side lot line, rear lot line, how your garage should face, how far outbuildings should be. And without a survey, we are not able to advise the client as to where those are located. So if an issue develops, it becomes the owner's issue at that point.
Right, and just some things I've seen very recently. I've seen a front porch added. They did not get a new survey. None of these folks did, and closed on property. A front porch was added, and it was now in the setbacks.
Right.
A driveway was extended, now it's on the neighbor's property. A double garage was built, sits on someone else's land, the corner of it. And so the ultimate solution is removing those things if they don't address them at time of closing. So again, only a new survey is going to do that. I want to move on because there's something that's so important when you close, and no one ever talks about it with me but you, but the difference in ownership between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. I know we've addressed that several times, but it's very important when you close on real estate to make that decision, because it really affects if you or who you own the home with passes away, how that's distributed. So would you tell me the difference, again, or my viewers, the difference between those two ownerships?
The ownership that is the most traditional is joint tenants in common, which means that if one person passes away, they have an undivided interest, and it goes into that person's estate out via the terms of their will. If they don't have a will, which happens often, it is transferred via state statute. Right. In the case that you set it up joint tenants with rights to survivorship, then it automatically passes to the other person's name that's listed on the deed just by filing of a death certificate. which
Correct.
takes away the entire probate process.
Which is actually wonderful if you don't want that property to go through probate.
Right, yes. And being on the receiving end of that phone call weekly, I can tell you that it's something that you more than likely want if you're going to have that house for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
And it's a statute that was passed in 2000, so if you purchased your home prior to 2000, your house is not set up that way, more than likely. There was some other language that was being used, but more than likely, yesterday I did too in refinances, people would purchase their home prior to 2000, or sometimes some attorneys didn't start using it till much later. So it's a good idea to check your deed. It should have joint tenants with the rights to survivorship and not as tenants in common. That's the exact language from the statute, and it should be on the front page right after your names.
Absolutely. Buying home is one of your biggest investments that most of us ever make, and it's very important to make sure it's closed property, and I highly recommend folks, you have the right to pick your attorney, and I highly recommend folks to call your office and book their closings because you really want this done correctly. You want good advice on whether you need a survey or not, and what kind of ownership you want to have in the property, and all the other wonderful things you do for us.
Thank you.
So, Tracey, if folks want to book a closing or refinance a closing, you may not be moving, but just refinancing your loan, tell folks how to reach your office.
You can reach the office at 803-328-0150, or my website is threynolds.com, and you'll find out more information about surveys, home inspections, and me.
And that's a wonderful website. I go there and reference that often. Thank you so much for being on our show. We've got beautiful homes for sale in your area. We'll be right back.